Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Dickson, and I'm going to speak to you this morning about the assistance that the UK has given to FID. This assistance is currently provided under the Serious Organised Crime Anti-Corruption Programme, long title that we shorten to SOCAP. SOCAP is the current phase of the UK's Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office funded efforts in Jamaica to help address crime and corruption leading to better governance. There are a number of strands of this program, including assistance to MOCA, INDICOM, FID, and the relatively newly formed Integrity Commission. SOCAP assistance to the FID is an innovative approach to tackling serious organised crime and corruption in Jamaica to achieve a structured and robust application of the Proceeds of Crime Act and anti-money laundering legislation. The project in relation to FID began in October 2012. As Mr. Hay, our Chief Technical Director, mentioned earlier, I've been in and involved with the FID for some time. I came to Jamaica in 2007. I'm a police officer from the UK, Scotland Yard, and was the crime liaison officer at the British High Commission before joining the FID in 2012 as part of this project. The project itself provides technical assistance to strengthen the criminal asset recovery capability of this division of the Ministry of Finance and Public Service, and by extension, other parties involved in the process, including investigatory, prosecutorial, and judicial authorities. It is the view of the FID that the proceeds of crime regime for it to be most effective, the use of the financial intelligence and financial investigative techniques have to be utilized by mainstream law enforcement and not just specialized units such as the FID. As such, our project gives some support to sensitize these external parties to the benefits of proceeds of crime investigations, proceeding in parallel to all major organised crime investigations. And by that, what we mean is we advocate, if you're investigating someone for a criminal matter, at the same time you should open an investigation into their finances to see if the two are linked. Most people commit crime for one reason when we talk about acquisitive crime, and it's to make money. Gone are the days when I think we satisfy ourselves with convicting the person for the offence, such as drug dealing or predial larceny, and forget about the benefit that they've derived from that criminal activity, and those persons who've assisted them derive that benefit. We'll speak a little bit later, and you've heard from Mr. Darren already about some of the investigations that we're currently undertaking, but we're widening those investigations. It's not just the person who commits the initial crime, it's everyone whose hands the proceeds of crime travels through are under investigation as well. The SOCAP technical assistance to the division involves the practical mentoring of persons engaged in the use of financial investigative techniques to investigate financial and acquisitive crime, to bring these cases to a state where they are ready for prosecution. There are three technical assistants here at FID as a result of the funding being provided by SOCAP. They're all experienced UK law enforcement officers and are embedded within FID. And we're here on a daily basis, we work from here, and we're part of the team. The program also provides training by and exposure to those persons at FID and other law enforcement agencies involved in this type of investigation. We train both here in Jamaica, but we also give exposure to the investigators to go to other jurisdictions to see what pertains there. We're a great believer in looking at the practical application of what our colleagues in law enforcement elsewhere are doing and bringing those ideas, if possible, back to the Jamaican landscape. The use of financial intelligence and financial investigation techniques to trace and restrain assets is pivotal to Jamaica being able to combat money laundering and remove the profit from crime. and also addressing the financing of terrorism and to meet Jamaica's own developmental goals as well as the international standards imposed by bodies such as the Financial Action Task Force, FATF. The program also involves the identification and suggested remedy to legislative deficiencies to allow more effective investigations and sanctioning of those persons who profit from crime. The division in the person of the Chief Technical Director has a pivotal role in the National Anti-Money Laundering Committee, NAMLAC as it's known, which provides advice to the Government of Jamaica on policy reforms relating to money laundering and the financing of terrorism. The aim of the project is to increase the capability of Jamaica to deal with such crime effectively, and SOCAP aims to encourage social stability, economic growth, and trust in the public institutions. While SOCAP is principally designed to tackle acquisitive crime, such as money laundering and corruption, no program operating in this space can ignore the wider implications of non-compliance with internationally recognized standards on anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism. These implications include the imposition of countermeasures by FATF countries and the consequent de-risking activities by corresponding banks and the attendant dampening effects on foreign investment here in Jamaica. As the CTD has mentioned, Jamaica underwent its Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, mutual evaluation in 2015-16. And whilst compliance was assessed to be achieved in some areas, there were other areas of significant weakness. In February 2019, FATF revised its prioritization criteria, and as a result, Jamaica is currently under FATF observation, known as being placed on the grey list. Without significant and prompt reforms to the AML CFT framework, Jamaica has found itself formally in this FATF follow-up process and exposes itself to countermeasures issued by that body. That mutual evaluation, just so everyone is clear, it's not an evaluation of FID and its efforts in combating money laundering. It's an evaluation of Jamaica as a country. Does it attain the international standards agreed by FATF? However, FID sits front and center in relation to responses and investigations. Jamaica, with the FID at its forefront, is working diligently to address the perceived deficiencies, and the SOCAP mentors here are assisting in a number of ways to progress this work, which includes legislative changes, strengthening of policies and capacity both in the law enforcement and regulated sectors. These efforts to date, last week, were presented at the CFATF plenary, resulting in recommendations for upgrading in certain areas of the original evaluation, which will then be carried forward to the FATF when it meets in early 2021. SOCAP has been instrumental in assisting FID to drive legislative change, an example being the cash transaction limit in excess of 1 million Jamaican dollars, Section 101A of the Proceeds of Crime Act. There are further amendments to POCA upcoming. We have designed and implemented a bespoke financial investigation training and accreditation program, which is endorsed and supported by CFATF. And that's to promulgate the wider use of POCA across our law enforcement partners. As I said earlier, FID cannot be the only agency or entity in Jamaica that is looking at money laundering. It has to be more widely used. Proceeds of Crime Act has been around since 2007. We're now 13 years down the road, and again, people are still looking at what we call the predicate offense, i.e. the drug dealing, the theft, the fraud, but not looking sideways to look at what happened to the proceeds of crime. Some people still maintain that it is the job of FID to do that. We need to just get everyone on the same page to say, no, it's law enforcement's job to look at money laundering that derives from this type of criminality. Training opportunities that we provide through SOCAP are shared across all agencies and law enforcement entities who engage with FID. We long ago learnt that there's no point in FID being the only persons to receive such training and knowledge, because again, we then work in a silo and no one else is aware of how we operate or would like to operate. This shared training ensures a joined-up approach and encourages relationship building amongst those tasked to investigate crime, and especially money laundering and CFT. The CTD Mr. Hay mentioned earlier about our working relationships, and that's something we try and encourage very much at the investigative level. We're trying to encourage more joint investigation. There are a number of law enforcement agencies, you've heard the names this morning. They all hold information in different ways on the same individuals. When we're looking at those individuals, we should be pulling together everything that's known about them into one place to assist any prosecution or investigation going forward. So in monetary terms, since October 2012 through to March 2020, the UK has funded the FID component to the extent of some 2.8 million British pounds, which is an average of 350,000 per annum. The assistance is underpinned by an MOU between the Ministry of Finance and the UK's Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office. That money pays for a number of things, but essentially, it has to assist with the increasing the capability and capacity of FID and the wider law enforcement to combat money laundering. We do provide equipment, but more times than not, it's us providing training, mentoring, exposure, etc., where we can to assist the investigators. SOCAP itself as a project is subject to an annual review internally by the UK, and since its inception has received consistently high scores ranging from A+ to A for the years 2012 to 2019. It was independently evaluated by external consultants in 2017-18 and received an exceptional review grading. The latest annual review has concluded that in terms of value for money, unfortunately, everything is measured as value for money these days. I think everyone looks at what am I getting in return for what I'm paying out. There's been an estimated return of approximately 560% on the UK's investment in the FID portion of the programme. This is due to the forfeiture and restraint of assets in the cases investigated by FID in that time frame. This does not mean that any money is returned to the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office of the UK. All monies realised by the restraint and forfeiture regime under POCA and FID remain with the Government of Jamaica. It's just as a measurement for every pound that the UK has spent on FID. If we look at the corresponding forfeiture and restraint values, it's 5 times that. So it just gives you an idea of we in the UK consider this to be very good value for money. There's also, if I can use the word selfish, reasons for the assistance. There are still a number of persons in the UK who are involved in criminality, the proceeds of which find its way to Jamaica. There are still drugs and other types of contraband that finds its way from Jamaica to UK. This project allows a closer working relationship with FID. In my previous role as the crime liaison officer, I worked consistently with FID. It was all about chasing the proceeds of crime. And that was in 2007 through to 2011-12. I'm happy to say Jamaica is not taking that view as well. And we're not satisfied in just looking at the assets here in Jamaica. A lot of Jamaican criminals have assets in other parts of the world, including our close neighbours and further afield. Well, we go after those assets these days in our investigations. As Mr. Darien has alluded to, we use the Mutual Legal Assistance Criminal Matters Act to make inquiries and take action in other countries to recover those assets. So gone are the days when those assets, if they're not in Jamaica, they were too difficult to go after. We want the message to go out to the criminal. Wherever you commit your crime, whether it be in Jamaica or elsewhere, and wherever your assets are, if you're under investigation by the FID, we will look to recover those assets. Everybody, I think, understands that there is a consequence of committing crime. It's normally going to prison or a pecuniary penalty of some sort. Historically, people went to prison, but they were able to do that in the comfort of knowing that when they came out, they could live in the big house and continue to live a certain lifestyle. Those days are over, and we're looking at taking away the assets that you have as a criminal obtained by your criminality. And as I said earlier, we're also looking to those persons who assist you to either hide those assets, acquire those assets, or even have use of the assets. People have an idea about money laundering as, that man with a suitcase full of cash trying to get it into the banking system. If you take the time and look at the Proceeds of Crime Act in Jamaica, as well as most other countries, you'll see there are a large number of offences that are under the money laundering regime that don't involve cash. If you steal something and pass it along through a number of hands before it becomes converted to cash, those persons that have assisted in retaining, moving, concealing that stolen property commit money laundering. And we need the public to realise that you may not have been at the actual crime, but what you do afterwards in relation to the proceeds of that criminality, be it the original thing that was stolen or the cash that it's been converted to or the asset, you are as guilty as the person who stole it in the first place. And that is where we are in the FID. We're looking wider across the criminality. So thank you very much for the opportunity this morning to give you some idea of the UK's involvement here at FID. Thank you.